Hello, and welcome to the AstroEnergy Astrology Show podcast with astrologer Shelley Overton. Hi, it's Shelley Overton, and you are listening to the November 5th, 2020 edition of the AstroEnergy Astrology Show podcast. Welcome. I am an astrologer in Orlando, Florida, and we are about to get ready to talk about this week's astrology. We're going to talk some election astrology, and hopefully we'll get to the bottom of some things. So anyway, welcome. I have got like 5 different charts up on my computer, which is right there. And so I'm going to just talk to you about it. I'll probably post them on either my website under a blog or probably more likely below. Let me see. Oh no, I'll just put them right here. So I'll put them on the screen for those of you watching the video. Okay. Excuse me. Sorry about that. Yeah, this is this week. I know I show it every once in a while. This is this week. And here's next week. Pretty busy. So we've got, for those of you who only hear it in podcast, lots of writing all over my ephemeris and my daily planner. And I'm going to just show you, this is the planner I use. And I got my new one. And I even got help from my daughter doing the colors and getting ready to go through all the pages and highlight the different dates. So it'll look really pretty this coming year. But if you're interested in getting this, I've got a link on my website. If the link doesn't work, just right click it and open it in a new window. It should work. Anyway, I'm still kind of a newbie to that kind of thing. And anyway, okay, so let's go over what we've been going through. Yes, we are stressed. Not gonna kid about that. We are stressed. So, I guess I should start with Election Day. Election Day was November 3rd here in the States. Mercury went direct at 12:50 p.m. Eastern, and we had a square to Mars, a sextile to Mars right after at 12:57 p.m. Eastern. We had the moon square Neptune in Pisces, Venus inconjuncted Uranus at 9:22 p.m., and then these next aspects went over to the next day, which is moon inconjunct Jupiter and moon inconjunct Pluto, of course. And I don't see, moon inconjunct Saturn the next morning at 9:43 a.m. So all of that kind of leads up to a difficult aspect for Election Day, a difficult group of aspects for Election Day. First off, I think I'm going to back up a little here and talk about the candidates, the 2 main ones, which are Donald Trump and Joe Biden. So the thing that I really want to speak to is that the planets involved in this whole scenario are the planets that are representing the sun signs of Donald Trump and Joe Biden. So Donald Trump is a Gemini. He has sun at 22 degrees Gemini, which is pretty significant if you've been listening to the podcast or watching for the last few months, because the 22 degrees is the degree that the stellium in Capricorn met at January 12th and 13th. And so that's really the kickoff for 2020 for everything that's been happening over the course of this year. Sorry, I'm just gonna adjust this a little bit for you. Okay. So we've got this energy going on of 22 degrees. So his sun has been inconjunct to that stellium on and off, honestly, for about 3 years, because 22 degrees is where Uranus squared Pluto in 2015. It's also the degree we had the nodes, which are the nodes of fate, worldwide effect, and it's energized January 12th and 13th by Mercury. I don't remember if it was the moon as well, but Mercury, Jupiter, Saturn, Pluto, and I'm just trying to think, it might have been the sun as well. I think it was the sun also. So it was 5 energies all at the same degree of 22 in January, which was right when he was getting impeached. So it is a significant degree for Donald Trump. What's also significant is that Gemini is ruled by Mercury, so Mercury can affect him as well as a ruling planet of his sun and his ego. Joe Biden is a Scorpio. What's really interesting about Joe Biden is Pluto rules Joe Biden, which of course, because Pluto is in conjunct to Mercury at 22, or to, Donald Trump's sun in Gemini at 22, they obviously have more of a contentious relationship, probably on Donald Trump's side, more so than Joe Biden, who is heavily influenced by the energy of Libra. His Neptune's in Libra, and that's his midheaven. His house of career. He's got a 1-degree Neptune in Libra. So his career looks for balance. He seeks out balance and cooperation and diplomacy. Whereas Donald Trump, he has 3 energies in Libra, and they are in the house of money. His Neptune in Libra is in his 2nd house. He's got Chiron, Neptune is at 5 for Trump, and Chiron at 14 degrees Libra, followed by a 17-degree Jupiter in Libra. So what that tells me is he seeks out relationships, he seeks out partnerships. He is influenced by partners, whether that is a wife or a business partner. He's always looking to balance things in business. And I know that doesn't necessarily sound exactly like him, but you have to also remember he's got a 29-degree Leo rising, which means he's got Pluto in Leo in his subconscious in his 12th house, and he's got Mars at 3 degrees above the horizon. It just rose up when he was born. So Mars is strong male energy, fiery energy in the sign of Leo, in the sign of leadership and arrogance and self-centered, because it's right on the horizon. So he does things, his actions always come back to him. What he is looking for, because the Leo is in the 12th, it creates tremendous fortune and leadership, but it also creates like these bombs going off in his psyche around needing to belong, which I think he's struggled with most of his life. And because of how he was raised, and I read about him, it's really interesting. His father read a book, and I want to say it was by Zig Ziglar, but I'm not totally sure if that's who it was. But it has to do with having the idea that we create our own future through positive thinking. I think that's what it was. It was the power of positive thinking. And so his father read this book, and from what I understand, he also refused to acknowledge Trump's mother being sick, because this book was like, if you focus on the positive, you'll attract positive. Don't give any credit to the negative. And I haven't read the book, so I can't speak to exactly what it says, but I have heard of the book. And so his father read this book, and he just went to the extreme on it. And so Trump was raised in that culture, in that environment of being, I'm just going to say positive things. And I think that probably coupled with Gemini, 3 planets in Gemini, or North Node in Gemini, Uranus in Gemini, and Sun in Gemini, and his Pluto, Mars, Leo in the 12th, really got into his psyche that this is the way to go. And he saw a positive reinforcement as long as he kept saying it's the biggest, it's the best, which is hyperbolic and very Leonine. It's a Leo energy to be bigger than life, and especially with words, Gemini. So that worked for him, and he kept going with it. So as much as we say liar, 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 he sees it as sticking to this storyline, that as long as he doesn't budge from the storyline, everything lines up. And quite honestly, when you look at the law of attraction, that is very much how the law of attraction works. As long as you keep focused on your intention of where you're going, don't worry about how, you get there. And so the thing that may not work in this instance is that everyone else is also waking up to this idea. And that means that if the collective focuses on what their intention is, the power, it can supersede his own intention. From my perspective, that's part of what could happen. Now, Joe Biden, he's an interesting person as well, because he has Scorpio in the 12th, and Leo squares Scorpio. And so he's got a 28-degree Venus, he's got a 27-degree Sun, and he's got a 28-degree Leo Chiron. That's a bit concerning, but the reason I would be concerned with a late degree Chiron squaring his Venus and Sun is because that means that there's something subliminal or subconscious that is friction or heart-wrenching. Now, it is also the house of Jupiter. He's got Chiron in the 9th house, which is ruled by Jupiter. So there is an energy of travel, spiritual awakening, but it is also Jupiterian in transformation. And he has suffered loss through transformation. His son, his wife, I think he had a daughter also die prematurely, if I'm not mistaken. I think he lost a daughter somewhere in there, but I could be mistaken. I don't know. So that can speak to loss. And then, so he's got four planets in Scorpio, not just 3. He's got Mercury, Sun, and Venus all in the 12th house, but he's also got Mars at 12 degrees Scorpio in the 11th house of community. Now, being a Scorpio rising myself and Moon Neptune conjunct in the 1st house, I understand the drive towards integrity. And yes, I think a lot of people will say that Scorpios can be vindictive. And I think I'm a pretty good example of not being vindictive. I am very rational about that. I've got Pluto in the Aquarius house in Virgo, the service sign. So fortunately, I've got a little bit more tempering of my Plutonian nature. But having this intense Scorpio energy in the 12th, he's got Scorpio in the 12th house, which is the Pisces house or the sign of universal love. So he's got deep visceral feelings and a love for humanity on a higher agape level. So it's up here and it's about really embracing everyone. He's got Neptune in Libra in the Capricorn house, which says his career is structured around diplomacy and wanting to balance in an ultimate sense, wanting everyone to be cooperative in the career. So he is a real big bridge builder. So, looking at the charts, he's got some common planets with Trump. As far as, his generation, Trump is 10-degree Pluto in Leo, and Biden is 7-degree Pluto in Leo, but they're in different houses, which add a different energy to it. Now, all this being said, this is not meant to be a Trump-Biden reading. What I wanted to do was look at the election more. And so I'm just going to hide this chart. And let me see if I can find what's going on today. Here's the chart for today. So today, currently, I've got this for 2:26 p.m. This was right when I started the podcast here in Orlando. And we have Sun at 13 degrees Scorpio. The Sun is right on Biden's Mars, which means the election was Sun very close to his 12 degrees Mars in Scorpio. So shining the light on the power, the forward momentum. There was a moon in Gemini on the election day. And of course, that is Trump's sign. So moon on his sun means that there is a certain amount of emotional cooperation with his ego. So he felt that he could win. That being said, Biden also has tremendous forward momentum. And if you listen to the podcast in the last few weeks, I did talk about the election and it being kind of a neck and neck. I think it was 2, maybe 3 weeks ago, I was talking about it on my podcast. If you want to go back and listen, that the day of the election being the fact that Mercury went direct in Libra, it is about balance. So that means we're trying to balance it. We've got this candidate, that candidate, and it's this and then it's that. So it does feel very much, if you watch the election coverage, got votes here, we've got votes there, we've got votes here, and it's kind of like this. So going up a ladder. So what I'm looking at is today, well, even over the course of a few days, and I'm going to have to look at my ephemeras and my planner for this, even though I've got the charts over there. What I notice is the momentum, probably the most noticeable momentum, is the sun is in Scorpio. And it starts out on Biden's Mars. And when Mars goes direct, by then the sun will be within a day of Biden's birthday. And, that is a tremendous influence astrologically. Being in your solar return, the sun shines on you. The sun is illuminating you. And because right now the sun, again, is at 13 degrees of Scorpio, it just hit Biden's Mars. It goes into his 12th house of the subconscious. So really, as long as he is good with where he's going in his mind, he has that momentum to continue. So at 21 degrees sun, which, let's see, his sun's at 27. So the next degree will be Mercury. His natal Mercury is triggered, which is communication. And he's speaking to a visceral level of community. He's speaking to a subliminal, visceral level. He's saying, this is who I am. I'm telling you what's going on. And it's a not very nonverbal energy. And if you look at what he does, he's expressing himself only when needed. He isn't trying to get in the limelight and say, this is what's going to happen. He's hidden. He's not in the spotlight. As the sun goes to his solar return, it's a very deep moment of contemplation for him, because of course it's the sun shining in his 12th house of the subconscious. So it's like, okay, are we going to do this? Do we want to do this? These are the thoughts he's having. Keeping in mind the whole time, the Scorpio ruling planet Pluto is now direct. It's in Capricorn. I'm just looking at this. Okay, so Jupiter's at 21 degrees right now today. Pluto's at 22. Jupiter and Pluto combine at the same degree coming up, which I do think is very significant, because Jupiter is transformative as well as Pluto being transformative. Jupiter will come out with information. It is like a watershed moment of, here's the truth as I know it. And the thing is, Jupiter telling what it knows, it joins up with Pluto and it makes tremendous power with the two combined. Jupiter is transformative, Pluto is transformative. Jupiter is like the butterfly, Pluto is kind of like the atom bomb. So you combine that personal transformative spiritual transformation of Jupiter with Pluto. Personally, it is rather a concerning aspect, because Jupiter can indicate when someone's about to transition. Pluto rules life and death. So the two combined, and then Saturn is the structure. In Capricorn, it's the structure of the physical body. So the three planets combined with the sun, well, sun is now sextiling. You're approaching a sextile, which is 60 degrees apart. And that's a very positive energy. So it is transformative, but it's also cooperative on some level with what's going on, at least in Joe Biden's chart. And for Trump, he's got Neptune in Libra, Jupiter in Libra at 17. So currently the sun is about 4 days away from an exact square to his Jupiter. So there is what do you call it? Friction and stressful aspect to his natal Jupiter in the house of the physical. So, and this is by no means any kind of wishing on my part, but it is a caution for health for him, because the body is being triggered by, I mean, in a direct hit. Now we know he's already been sick, but also Venus is at 11 degrees, which is coming up on his Chiron. And let me just see when Venus gets to his Chiron at 14 and his Jupiter at 17. So Venus gets to 14. Let me make sure I'm in the right month. The 9th. So what is the 9th? The 9th is Monday of next week. Jupiter will be, Venus will be squaring his Jupiter. Oh no, on his Jupiter, excuse me. So Venus is on his Chiron first on the 9th, and then will be on, very close afterwards, so the 11th. So the 9th and 11th of next week are significant days for him, with Venus triggering his Chiron and his Jupiter. What does that mean? It means there is a wounding from your desire. Venus is in Libra, which is the idea of love, the idea of money, and what we think about what we want. So what I'm looking at in his chart, in Trump's chart, is that there is this idea of what he wants. What does he want? He wants something in the physical world, the second house. He wants money, obviously, but he's looking to create balance between his desires and how he sees himself in the physical realm. Venus on Jupiter, definitely Jupiter is a fortunate sign, a fortunate planet in and of itself. Venus is also a feminine energy, but what I would say with Chiron there, his Chiron Jupiter conjunction is a problem area in his chart, because wherever our Chiron falls is where we are most deeply wounded. And for him, Libra is either marriage, partnership, or in some type of balance in how his expression of that connection between himself and someone else is balanced. And so it can, again, it's also love and money, but Venus brings beauty, it brings joy. On Jupiter, it is transformative around love. I wouldn't be surprised if there's probably a wounding around a woman in his life. And I saw, and you can go back over other readings I've done of him. I've always seen his chart as being definitely wounded by women or seeking approval of women, probably most likely his mother, all his life. There's a subconscious need, like he's got Venus in Cancer, Saturn in Cancer, Mercury in Cancer. His Cancer falls in his house of detachment, the Aquarius sign, the 11th house. So there is a certain amount of detachment from women, but then you go into this subconscious, and it's in Leo, which of course is masculine energy, but it is also connecting and wanting to be part of something. So the combination of, there's a certain detachment from women because of Venus next to Saturn in the 11th house, but he is also wanting this approval and connectedness, which is Leo. So there's, and then he's got Moon in Sagittarius in his house of home and family. So his mother, there's a certain amount of, I would say, narcissism on her part, or a detachment around, like he wants to be free of something, because that's the Sagittarius. And it's also, his moon's 1 degree off of his south node. The south node, he's in a south node return right now, 20 degrees south node in Sagittarius. So this is a significant year for Trump in a life-changing way. His north node is on the degree right between his Uranus of detachment and entrepreneurship in Gemini, dual entrepreneurial roles, and Sun at 22 in his career house. So there is a life-changing moment going on with that. And yeah, this is, I would say, looking at his chart, sorry about that, is a very big spiritual moment and life-changing moment. He's got Saturn, Pluto, Jupiter going through his 5th house. And I didn't want to get off into this, but his chart really, to me, because everybody's doing this stellium in Capricorn, and it falls in his house of romance, creativity, and children. And it's the Leo house. So it is a leadership, but it's also the connectedness of me to you, understanding and relating, which obviously he has not been a very good relator. And because that's in conjunct to his Leo Mars, there is a moment where his actions are having to be looked at in the structure of his career, Saturn, in a moment of life change. So whether or not he will pick up on this energy, I tend to doubt it. But Gemini up in the house of career tends to make you a little bit more blind to your own narcissism. So, but Joe Biden, you know, he also has Saturn in Gemini, and he has Uranus and Gemini in the house of work. So he's got that Uranus retrograde in his house of work. It is also a service house. It's the Virgo house with his Uranus. So it's like he can roll up his sleeves and get going on it. And he's very much a thinker when it comes to the workplace. He's got the Mercury energy of Gemini. He's got the Mercury energy of Virgo in the house. And then he goes into Saturn and Gemini in the cooperative house of Libra, which is marriage and partnership. So Saturn in the house of marriage and partnership means that he is trying to balance this career Saturn with the home life of the marriage, but also the business of what he does and the connection to another. He does better with cooperation and groups. He is a group kind of guy, looking at his chart, where I think Trump definitely has some issues of wanting to connect to people, but I think he keeps missing the mark in his chart. And part of that is his South Node and North Node axis in Gemini Sag. And the other part is his Chiron in Libra. That it's just kind of like he can't quite get there with relating. And so as we go along and we see this whole energy, of course, Gemini has a huge play in what's going on because Gemini went direct on election day. And then the next major influence coming in is, well, I will even back it up, Jupiter 2 days before the next one. Jupiter goes to 22 degrees of Capricorn, and that is the degree I said that we had the stellium in January. Pluto hit it on election day. So Pluto at 22:42 minutes on election day, major changes, also the degree of January 12th, 13th this year. Jupiter hits it on the 12th of this month, and that's 22:43 of Capricorn. So again, triggering that date, like difficult, very difficult energy, not only because it re-triggers the impeachment date for Trump, but it also is the degree of square to his sun. I'm just looking, I'm double checking. Not square, in conjunct. So that's 150 degrees. So we've got this real strong stress Capricorn stellium hitting his North Node sun, and I guess I would also throw in Uranus at 17 Gemini in conjunct to his chart. So we've got all that hitting him. And then we've got the next major influences. Mars goes direct on Monday, or no, let me see, Friday, on Friday the 12th. I'm going to look this one up exact. I'm sorry, my voice is getting a little raspy. Mars goes direct at 7:36 p.m. on November 13th, so Friday. That's a week from tomorrow. So it can potentially drag out, and my guess is because of the legalities, I know he's created a lawsuit in a couple states. I think Georgia is the one that comes to mind, that there has to be X amount of time after the election where they have to wait until a certain point. I know there has to be less than 1% to challenge the recount. Then there has to be a week waited until they actually do the recount. And so that puts us into next week, right around the time Mars goes direct. Honestly, and I know it's highly stressful, we may see some numbers with Biden today on Thursday, the 5th, but we may not have a technical accurate win till Mars goes direct, which is a week from tomorrow on Friday. And so so now that we're at Mars direct, there's also a Jupiter aspect that I think I wanted to check on. So let me just double check that. And we have a new moon at 23 Scorpio, which is Biden's Mercury, and new moon is initiating energy. That's on the 14th. So I've got chills on that. And that tells me that there's very strong likelihood that the 13th and 14th will be the significant time for this election, for a culmination of the answer. I'm going to say it is Biden, which is kind of somewhat self-evident at this point, but I also have said in the past that there will be legal challenges to the outcome, again, on the same election podcast a couple weeks ago. But I've been talking about this election since January. I mean, you can find other references to the election way back then, but I know I said within the last 2 months that there was going to be like a balancing of, kind of a head-to-head thing. Anyway, yeah, so those are the significant energies I've seen in this. And the Scorpio energy really is very strong. Let me see, I had other stuff. Oh, and I know I wanted to tell you, I've got some things else I wrote down, but I wanted to tell you that once Mars goes direct, that when Mars went into Aries earlier in the year, around July, that's when we really saw the rise of the Black Lives Matter movement. I personally, and I even heard it referenced yesterday that, you know, back when we had the protests for Black Lives Matter, like there was a moment in time that that happened. That was somewhat stifled as Mars went retrograde, and we went back into some really bad way of thinking of things. We had all the planets retrograde. We were moving back to the past. There were a lot of energies around protests and conflict and all this that was happening over the retrograde of Mars that was really kind of going back to the way things were. We had some headway, and obviously, if you can't tell, I'm very much on board for BLM. I just, you know, it's time has come. So what the forward momentum made in July backed off as Mars went retrograde. Mars going direct next week means that that will reinitiate, and those issues around, well, probably how fires are handled, the people fighting the fires, guns, absolutely, because that's a manifestation of Aries and Mars. The protests around Black Lives Matter, it's really like male energy owning or trying to understand the place in a new society, which we are going towards. We absolutely are heading to a new way of looking at roles, gender roles. It's not going to stop. I mean, for those of you, I don't know that I have a whole lot of conservatives watching me, but if they're out there, thank you for watching. I do value everybody who comes to my channel. I am also not going to stop expressing myself, and I'm really challenging myself to be more forthright with my points of view, whether or not it matters to you, it matters to me. And I think at this point in my life, I mean, I'm 56 years old, so I think it's time that I really say, hey, this is what I stand for. So if you don't resonate to that, that's fine. And I'm sure you'll find a wonderful astrologer out there who matches your viewpoint. But I'm very much, having 4 planets in the Aquarius house, I'm of the belief that we are all on the same page when we come to this planet, and we are all equal. We are all able to express ourselves with equal value, and until the world sees it that way, we have room to grow. So that whole idea and ideology is going to be the standard of the future. Aquarius is not going to let us not have it that way. That's what Aquarius does. And as Pluto moves into that in a few years, it's the future. I mean, it's just the way it's going to be. That's what is meant to be, in my opinion. Okay, so rant done. Anyway, yeah, we've got a lot of stuff coming up then and we'll just recount real quick. We've got Mercury went direct on Tuesday in the sign of, I have to look it up, I just forgot what sign it was in, Libra, and it will get into Scorpio very soon. I want to say Monday, Tuesday. So Mercury enters Scorpio at 4:55 p.m. on Tuesday. And so that's also cutting words or fighting words, and it is ready for the fight, and is also law, legalities, courts, and surgery for those of you who have been feeling physical health issues. I know a couple people, surgery could happen next week, because Mercury is the mind of surgery, the mind of doing that. And I have one, pardon my nose, every time I even told another reader online, like, yeah, when your nose itches, spirit's there with you. So I apologize for all the nose rubbing, but that's what happens when you open yourself up to it. So we've got this Mercury in Scorpio next week that is going to be pretty big and potent for the election anyway, and also for words that are spoken. It's like fighting words, and it is commitment. So currently with Mercury in Libra, it's about balance and diplomacy and being the nice guy. But when it gets to Scorpio, the gloves come off, and you draw the line in the sand and dig your heels in. It's a fixed energy. So, you know, Libra's the initiating energy, Scorpio's the fixed energy. So it takes a lot to move Scorpio. And that is, 4 planets in Joe Biden's chart. So let's see. Sun in Gemini is a mutable sign, initiating energy, Mercury, Saturn, Venus for Trump, and that's in the Aquarian house. So, you can say what you will, but there is a certain side of humanity somewhere in Trump. I just don't know if he's awakened to it yet, and I hope he does, honestly. Okay, and then we have Venus moving into Scorpio on Saturday, the 21st. It is the month of Scorpio. And then we have, this is probably going to be a significant day, the 22nd of November. Believe that was the day, and I was just looking it up, that was the day that Kennedy was assassinated, November 22nd, 1963. But there's an inconjunct between Mercury and Mars in Aries. I would say, if anything, that has to be a point of caution. I don't like to dwell too much on that, but Mercury in Scorpio is a war and word sign, but it's also accidents, and it rules life and death and rebirth. And it's in conjunct to Mars in Aries, which is fighting. I would say there's a very strong potential for another gun event on the 22nd, sadly. And I'm really trying to keep it positive, but being an astrologer, you see certain things in what's going on in the sky, and I would put a big old caution out there on the 22nd. But it's also the day, I believe, or within a day of the sun going into Sagittarius, which is a fire energy. Is the day after. Sun goes into Sagittarius on Venus enters Scorpio at 8:22 a.m. on the 21st. Sun enters Sagittarius later that day at 3:40 p.m. Eastern. So we've got Venus moving into the fixed energy of Scorpio, and that is also the body. The Sun enters Sagittarius, which is transformative. Moon enters Pisces, which is universal love and very emotional. And that, while I understand it answers to Neptune, and that also being said, oh my gosh, the stuff that goes on. I can't even keep up with it in November. So that was the 21st and 22nd, and 7 days later, Neptune goes direct. And so Neptune is going to start to slow down in that week, the last week of November, as Neptune goes direct. So you've got a lot of emotional energy, a lot of fiery energy, and it's just going to be rocking and rolling from now until the end of the year. Probably even 2021, because it's an Aquarian Taurus year. And I'm just now, like I said, I'm just now going over my ephemeris for 2021, so I can start working on all the anticipated horoscopes coming up on my blog for that. If you would like to get a reading, please check me out at angeliczodiac.com. If you want to contribute and subscribe to different opportunities of getting readings for discounted prices and things like that, go to patreon.com/ I want to say it's Angelic Zodiac, but all the comments below my podcast and in the video podcast have these links. So you can just go down there. My cat just jumped in the window. And then let's see what else is there. Just check me out at Angelic Zodiac. I've got blogs up there. I've got horoscopes that I posted last month that go all the way through the end of the year, and lots of good stuff. You can get me on Instagram at Angelic Zodiac1. I really like being on Instagram. I post stuff there. And check out my art at ShelleyOverton.com. All this is at the end of the podcast. You'll hear it then too. So I hope you have a good week. Try not to stress too much. Don't forget to ground, hug a tree. Yes, I'm a tree hugger. And that's it. So lots of love, and we'll see you next week. Take it easy, meditate, do good things for other people. Love you. Bye.
You have been listening to the AstroEnergy Astrology Show. If you would like to get a private reading with Shelley, please contact her through angeliczodiac.com or at so@angeliczodiac.com. You can arrange a reading through the Angelic Zodiac page at facebook.com as well. Check out Angelic Zodiac on Instagram for up-to-date information on events, discounts, blogs and planetary transits at Angelic Zodiac1 on Instagram. If you would like to see Shelley's art, ShelleyOverton.com, or for astrology art, go to astroart.net. Music provided by Kevin MacLeod at incompetech.com. Other music will be credited within the show. Advice given in the program is intended for entertainment purposes only. Join us here next week for more of the AstroEnergy Astrology Show podcast. You can find us on iTunes and Google Play, and where podcasts are accessed.